And to discuss the general elections in Nicaragua this Sunday, we now welcome Anasha Campbell, who's an analyst and director of the Nicaraguan Institute of Tourism. Anasha, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. Please receive warm greetings from the land of lakes and volcanoes, Nicaragua.
Anasha, how important are these general elections for Nicaragua?
These elections are very important to reaffirm Nicaragua's sovereignty, but also self-determination, independence, and that is the Nicaraguan who decides the future of our nation and who decides also to continue those routes of development, the roads of prosperity and of well-being of all the Nicaraguan people. It's not foreign countries or external people who decides that. It's the Nicaraguan people. And I believe that's what makes this election so important for all Nicaraguans.
Anasha, we know that there have been repeated attacks from the United States and the European Union, which have insisted that these elections are fraudulent. What can you tell us about the guarantees of the electoral process in Nicaragua and the general atmosphere today as Nicaraguans went out to the polls?
Well, the general atmosphere has been an environment of peace, of tranquility, of the Nicaraguans using their civil right to vote and to decide the future of our country. We know that there has been an ongoing campaign to attack Nicaragua's sovereignty, but this election has all the guarantees that are established in our electoral law and is the parties and the Nicaraguan people who are there fiscalizing this process. And I believe that the majority of Nicaraguan, the overwhelming participation of the Nicaraguan citizen in this process is the main important thing, because that stresses that Nicaraguans are the one that decides our future. And also the electoral companionship from around 230 people from different parts of the world that are here also accompanying this electoral process and also seeing and knowing how all the process have been and all the law that has been applied so that the Nicaraguan people can also take their decision in peace, in tranquility, and in this civism really and patriotism, because it's an act really of patriotism and of love of our country to show the world that it's the Nicaraguans who decide the future of our country.
Anasha, could you outline some of the key achievements of the Sandinista government?
Well, there's so many. Let me try to start, and I'll start stating that I am a young woman, a Black young woman from the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua, who, because of the government of President Daniel Ortega, had this opportunity of occupying this important position and role in the government. Why I state this is because the Nicaraguan coast has been for many years a marginalized area of our country, and is up until the Sandinista front that came back in power in 2007 that we have seen so many transformation, not only in Nicaragua as a whole, but also on the Caribbean coast. And I can mention all the development in terms of road and connectivity. For first time in Nicaragua's history, you can travel directly from the Pacific to the Caribbean coast because of that infrastructure, but also not only roads and highways, but also we have a 99% in electricity in all Nicaragua. The government has also prioritized two key things. One is our health system, with building more than 20 new hospitals all over the country, ensuring a free health for all Nicaraguans. And the second thing is also education. Now our people can enjoy the different levels of education freely. And these have contributed to the development of Nicaragua, but also our economic growth over these last 14 years that has been steady. And even in this context of a pandemic, Nicaragua has outstanding for how government of President Ortega has handled this matter, in which Our health is very good because of all the infrastructure, because of the budget that the government also gives to health and to education. But this has not stressed also our economic growth, because our economy has been, as usual, has been growing. Everything has been normal in our country. But then there's also things like women empowerment. Nicaragua, up until today, is the 5th country in the world in gender equality and equity, and probably the first in the American continent. Nicaragua is the safest country in Central America. We have, over these last 14 years, also had poverty reduction in about a 50%. In poverty, in general poverty, and in extreme poverty, we went from a 17% to a 7% by the leadership of President Ortega. And also, I think that special attention to the marginalized people in our country. Up until today, I think many poor people has had that opportunity to having access to housing, for example, but also to different projects, productive projects that has helped them develop and the betterment of quality of life of their people. So there's so much to say of all the achievements that our country has had under the leadership of President Ortega and the Sandinista Front, that I will need more time to stress all these things. And I go back to the Caribbean coast because I think it is evident to see now, in the first time in our history of this country, that you see so much Black people and indigenous people in key positions, and that the Caribbean coast is seen as part of that development of Nicaragua, is included in the Human Development Plan and also the Plan for Poverty Alleviation in our country. So I think the achievements are so many and so evident that anyone can see, and that's why Nicaragua has been an example worldwide because of that leadership, because of all these achievements, not only in the economic area, but also the social, the political, the cultural area. It has been an integral and sustainable growth of our Nicaragua country under the leadership of President Ortega.
Anasha, thank you for that amazing overview of all the social and economic progress that Nicaragua has witnessed over recent years. I'm going to now read to you a statement that's come from the White House today. This statement says that the elections held today were a pantomime election that was neither free nor fair and was not democratic. According to this statement from the White House, the arbitrary imprisonment of nearly 40 opposition figures since May, including 7 potential presidential candidates, and the blocking of political parties from participation rigged the outcome well before election day. Anasha, what can you tell us about this kind of statement from the White House?
Well, it's a statement coming from a government whose history in intervening in our country is very well documented. And I guess the recent thing was 2018, in which they financed an attempt of coup here in Nicaragua that was not successful, because the Nicaraguan people stood up to defend all the achievement that under the government of the Sandinista Front, the Nicaraguan people has enjoyed. And also, I guess it's not nothing new for us. We have also historical facts. Back in the 80s, and the government of the US funded a civil war in Nicaragua that by the international court, we have a verdict in which Nicaragua won really that process, in which we hold accountable the government of the US of financing a civil war between Nicaraguans, between the Contra and the Sandinista back in the 80s. So it is evident, I think, these attacks from the US government, and they will keep making a statement like this because they want to, they decide who would be the president of our country. And that is not possible no more. I think Nicaragua has been, and the Nicaraguan has been a country in which the bravery, in which the dignity, that self-determinations are main principles which we up until this day defend. And so you continue seeing these types of attack from the US government, from other governments also, because we have a government that seeks for the well-being and the best interest of the Nicaraguan people and not of foreign countries. And because also we do the things according to our law and looking always to defend the sovereignty, the dignity, and the independence of the Nicaraguan country and of the Nicaraguan people. So I think there is enough facts that can prove really the attacks that Nicaragua has been under over her whole history, back from Benjamin Celedon or from Sandino up until this day.
Sure. Going back to a more recent example, a specific example of these kind of attacks on Nicaragua. In 2018, Nicaragua saw violent acts of destabilization. What can you tell us about those acts?
Well, violent, really, an act of terrorism, that's what it was. That damaged not only the Nicaraguan people, but also our economy. And that tried to have this coup against the government that was not successful because of that general and the support that the Sandinista front has from the Nicaraguan people, as we say, is the Nicaraguan people who are the president. And we saw some horrible things, killing of Sandinista and Nicaraguan people in the roads in which they burned them alive practically. And you don't see none of those things in the bias and partial reports of human rights, of the OAS, of the US government. You don't see nothing like that there. So it's really only the Nicaraguan people who are in the country knows really what happened back in 2018. And I think that all that orchestrated event that happened back in 2018, the Nicaraguan people are very clear, and they saw what happened. We're very clear. We saw all the financing, and that's why the criminals are where they belong right now. And the Nicaraguan people hold them accountable. And we defend our constitution, we defend that right for self-determination, and we will defend Nicaraguan sovereignty, because as I said, it's the Nicaraguan people who decides their future, who decides who will be their leaders, and who decides also the path that they want for these following 5 years. So for us, it's nothing new, but I think the experience of 2018 also showed the Nicaraguan people clearly what happened back in 2018, so that it will not repeat in the future.
Anasha, the Sandinista National Liberation Front enjoys a parliamentary majority. We know that there are several opposition parties participating in today's general elections. How could the composition of the National Assembly change? And if there was to be more opposition representation within the parliament, how could that affect the government program?
Well, I don't believe the composition of the National Assembly will change. Because the latest polls also show that the Sandinista front has more than the 60% of acceptance in the Nicaraguan people. So I think it's highly unlikely for that to change. However, I think something that is important also to stress is that the Sandinista front has been always a party, an inclusive party that makes alliance, that invites everyone, that has the love for Nicaragua, to join us, and that has always made alliance, and that we have also, as our government says, no, the reconciliation. So I believe that has been a part of why we have had so much achievement and success and development and progress over these last 14 years, because it's not only a work of the national government, it's really a national alliance, a national, yes, alliance and consensus between the national government, the regional government, the municipal government, but mainly with the Nicaraguan people, and also the private sector and all the protagonists, because for us, the people are the core of everything that we do. Our human development plan is based and is focused on the people and the betterment of quality of life of the Nicaraguan people and the well-being of our people. So I don't see any changes in terms of the setup of our National Assembly. We expect the Sandinista front to maintain its majority in Parliament because of that support that the Sandinista party enjoys among the Nicaraguan people, which is very, very big. It's more than the 60% of acceptancy.
Anasha, you spoke to us about some of the huge social achievements, socioeconomic achievements in Nicaragua under Daniel Ortega. Your speciality at the moment is tourism. What can you tell us about tourism? How important is tourism for Nicaragua, and what are the key projects in this field?
Well, tourism was prioritized. The government of Daniel Ortega and Vice President Rosario Murillo from 2007 up until now. Before that, our country was based mainly on agriculture and cattle. But from 27 onward, tourism has been part of the Human Development Plan, seen as part of the economic strategy for growth in our country and for poverty alleviation, because tourism has to do directly with the well-being of the Nicaraguan people and with the betterment of quality of life of the Nicaraguan people. Is the Nicaraguan people who is offering a service or a product to our visitors. And so from 2007 until now, this has been a priority. Because of that prioritization of tourism is why we went also from a 2006 in which tourism was generating around $240 million for our economy, to a 2017, which was our best year, and in which tourism generated 840 million US. And also the tourism infrastructure went from around 230 establishment to more than 1,300 establishment in hotel establishment in 2017. And also in terms of employment, we went from maybe 20,000 employment that tourism generated for our country to 2017, in which it went to about 57,000 direct employment, without including the indirect employment that tourism generates. And also the investment in tourism in the country has been huge, not only private, but also public, all the public spaces for recreation of our people, for the development also of cultural activities, for the happiness of the Nicaraguan people has been quite impressive. And we have a lot of examples of that. One of the main places right now in Managua, our capital, is El Puerto Salvador Allende, which before this government really was somewhere no one would go. So I believe in the tourism area, there's a lot to say. I must also state that over the last years, prior to 2018, tourism constitutes itself in one of the main income generator sector for our country, above many traditional economic activity. And that is because the prioritization that the government has given this this economic activity, and mainly because we see that it helps with the development of the Nicaraguan people. But also Nicaragua in 2017, the World Tourism Organization in 2017 highlighted Nicaragua as one of the 10 fastest growing tourism destination in the world, in position number 8. So that can give you quite an idea of how this sector was moving, was developing prior to 2018, when we were very affected because of the failed attempt of coup. However, is a sector that is very resilient, and in which we still believe in, and we're still working to continue contributing to the development of our country. And for us, tourism is really one of the fundamental economic activity in Nicaragua, and we're sure that we will regain those routes of prosperity, of development, and of contribution to the economy of Nicaragua. Nicaragua has so many beautiful places, but also resources. The 7% of the world biodiversity is in Nicaragua. We have around 74 protected areas in this country. Around 4 biosphere reserve is in Nicaragua. 2 of the 7 places in the world where turtle nest massively, you can find it in Nicaragua. And then we have a diverse tourism product. So people can move very quickly from a sun and beach destination in the Pacific to climb a live volcano and enjoy lava that you would probably not find so accessible in any part of the world, to go to a colonial city that was founded in 1524 and enjoy not only the architecture, but the beautiful nature, and mainly the warmth and the hospitality of the Nicaraguan people that will always receive you with their hearts open, with a big smile, and make you feel like another Nicaraguan. But then you can go also to the northern part of Nicaragua and enjoy mountains, enjoy a fresh climate, enjoy the best coffee, and also the best tobacco in the world, the best cigars here in Nicaragua. And then you can come here on the Caribbean coast, where I am in Bluefields, and enjoy a different part of Nicaragua, enjoy that multi-ethnic, multicultural, and plurilingual Nicaragua. Enjoy the diverse, rich gastronomy of our country, which on the Pacific is based on corn, and here on the Caribbean coast is based on coconut milk. And then you can also enjoy our nature, more than 700 species of bird, a lot of wildlife. You have also spectacular island, Virgin Islands here on the Caribbean. And then you have this that makes Nicaragua unique, that we have both waters and beach in the Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea, but then we have also lagoons and rivers and waterfalls. So there's a lot to do in Nicaragua, and mainly I think what our visitors and tourists enjoys of Nicaragua is its authenticity, its originality, and for us, our main product, the Nicaraguan people, who have that life culture, traditions, and who is always happy to share it with the world. So you have to come to Nicaragua to enjoy not only our tourism, but enjoy all of Nicaragua, all that Nicaragua has to offer, which is always unique and original.
Anasha, you've definitely sold it to me. I'd love to come and visit. Sounds like a wonderful country. Tourism has, of course, been affected badly across the world by COVID-19. I'm just having news in that the polling stations are closing across Nicaragua, but anywhere that there are still people in line to vote, they will of course be allowed to vote. What are the conditions that have been put in place today in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic to ensure that people can vote safely?
Well, I believe before the electoral day, before the election day, the electoral council make known all the conditions that the parties should apply, and not only the parties, but also the people to ensure that prevention of the pandemic expanding due to elections. So things like, for example, before elections, the political events only could have had a capacity of 200 people, and in open spaces, in open air spaces, that was one of the conditions. Now on the electoral day, people had to use their masks, had the social distancing, had their hand washed or sprayed with alcohol before going in the voting polls. So those are part of the actions that were set in place to ensure the health and safety of all voters today.
Of the Nicaraguan Institute of Tourism, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for taking the time and for offering your valuable insight into these important elections for the future of Nicaragua and into Nicaragua as a country. Thank you.
You're very